Well, let me go ahead and get started. We seem to be pretty stable in terms of people coming in. Welcome to JMU in a way. Welcome to Justice Studies. My name is Glenn Hossett. I am chair of the Justice Studies Department. I have Sarah Akers with me, who's a student in our program. And Devin Darnell is hiding in the background there and can help you with kind of JMU admissions and institutional questions that are kind of beyond our reach. What I'd like to talk about first is the nature of justice studies as a discipline and the nature of justice studies as a department. My plan as it is to talk about 15-20 minutes to just kind of set this up, and then we will open it for questions to Sarah or myself, Devin, Devon. So we'll take it that way. Justice studies is a relatively new major as majors go within universities, right? History and English and philosophy have been around since the beginning of time. We're about 15 years old. We're an interdisciplinary unit. That means we have faculty with degrees in a variety of disciplines: political science, sociology, criminology, geography, conflict resolution. In the past, we've also had psychology and economics and speech communication. So we're very much policy focused in our courses. We're problem focused, and we approach them from a number of different perspectives. What unites us is, as our name implies, the idea of justice. And we don't impose a definition of justice on anyone. We want students to develop their own definition of justice. We want that definition to grow and become more solid and mature over time. But we recognize that justice is a contested concept, and what's important is students come to understand it and be able to articulate their own vision of what that is. We define justice in terms of 4 qualities or characteristics: rights, responsibilities, standards, and fairness. And that's what we work on. And that's what we teach on. That's what our courses are organized around conceptually. The curriculum in justice studies is divided or organized into a series of concentrations or tracks. Criminal justice and criminology, social justice and interventions, and global justice. By far the largest is the criminal justice and criminology. And so I'll start by talking about that and then kind of walk a little bit through the different concentrations. Criminal justice programs look different in a lot of different institutions. There's no single approach to criminal justice. So if you're interested in criminal justice and criminology, I would say you want to take a good, strong, and hard look at what the programs are in the schools you're looking at, and see which one is really the one that appeals to you most. Just don't assume that the name is going to produce the same program, because it will not. The traditional approach to criminal justice as a discipline was very much in the notion of problem solving, with crime being the problem. And it was a discipline that emphasized the correct approach to solving the crime. And so you would have courses on criminal evidence, criminal procedure. We call it now criminalistics, would be criminal analysis, crime scene analysis. And the focus would be on how to do those things. And there was a right answer. There was a right way to do all of those things. Over time, the discipline of criminal justice has moved, and it's moved to where we have been from the beginning, which is to treat the problem of criminal justice, or the field of criminal justice, much more as a series of mysteries and puzzles. There are wrong answers, to be sure. The puzzle doesn't work. But it doesn't necessarily, we don't start from the assumption that this is a discipline, area of study where there is a right answer and we're going to teach it to you. What we want to be able to do is help you develop critical thinking skills, be able to deal with ambiguity, be able to deal with new issues that arise over time, be able to understand the context within which problems arise, to understand the dynamics involved, the trade-offs involved. Our sense as justice studies at JMU is that more traditional approach, criminal evidence, criminal procedure, and that is what law enforcement and police agencies will teach you when they hire you. What they want you to come in with are critical thinking skills, the ability to understand things and respond correctly, so to speak, to those situations. So our courses in Track A, Crime and Criminology, have that feel to them. We have courses, for example, in victimization of children, sex offenders, death penalty, understanding violence, race, class, and justice, gender and justice, media and justice, right? All of those things provide context for understanding what challenges you might face on your job. And part of a real reason for doing that is not only are the problems and issues, the policies complex that we're dealing with here, that you will deal with, but you're going to be dealing with issues that we've never seen before, right? Cybercrime did not exist when I was in grad school, right? And it didn't exist for a lot of people coming into the law enforcement field 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's there now. And the key is, can I adjust? Can I understand? Can I see what's going on? So that's our focus on that, not to teach you how to do something, but to help you become critical thinkers, develop critical thinking skills. That's what employers want, we also feel. The global justice track, as its name implies, looks at issues in a global perspective. Track A, criminal justice and criminology, is largely US focused. The global track would have courses on things like refugees, humanitarian assistance, human rights, democratization, issues like that. People in Track A tend to be interested in careers in law enforcement, police, law school, that direction. Track B people are kind of split. We've got a number of people who would be what I would describe, given my age here, as peace studies people who are really interested in developing those skills, solving those problems. We also have a number of ROTC people in the program. Many of them are in Track A, but some of them are in Track B, making the argument that they're going to send me abroad and I need to understand what's there. And we'll get very, very healthy, polite, deep dialogues going between people who would say, for example, democratization is very, very important and everyone needs to do it. And maybe someone else who says, yeah, but it creates lots of violence and this is dangerous and this is a mess. Maybe isn't there something else we can do? So we get that dialogue going. Track C is social justice interventions. And the focus here is less on quote unquote crime as it is on struggles for existence, that there are people within society who are marginalized, who are victimized, who are oppressed, who are treated poorly. Life is a struggle. They're in a problem area. And which ways can we promote justice in that context? So it moves us out of a narrow crime focus into a broader perspective on daily living and what these people are dealing with, the challenges they're dealing with. In the major, right now, you pick one of these three tracks and move forward. We're actually in the process of doing some curricular reform, and it looks like we're going to introduce a fourth track or concentration, which will be a generalist, in which you could take courses from anywhere in the major and not have to focus on a single track. Some of our courses cover all three tracks. For example, something like the death penalty is certainly involved with crime and criminology. It's global because different countries have different perspectives and laws. It's a social issue because it affects the family of the victims, the family of the perpetrator, the community at large. It has all these elements in it. So we expect you to come in and select an area of concentration. You'd come in and take Justice 200, our introductory justice course, your first semester. The second semester, you would take what we refer to as track foundation courses, introductory courses in the 3 areas I've just described. And then your third semester, you can go out and take anything you want from anywhere in the department. To graduate, you would then have to do a senior seminar and a research methods course at the end. We've done this because we have many, many students who come in transferring from other majors into justice studies. Right, justice studies is not something anybody's had in high school. It's something that is new to them. I tell parents for choices that if they make their son or daughter major in something they didn't want, they've just bought the 6-year plan. And that's kind of what we get with students coming over from business and elsewhere, deciding they really want something else. They would come over and take so many courses at once that students who were starting in the major could not get through. So what we've done is kind of blockaded in the beginning. Anyone who starts justice studies by end of sophomore year is getting out in 4 years. There's no issue with that whatsoever. If you come in after that, there's a trade-off. And that's what basically we talk to students coming into the major about. But if you're coming in as a first semester freshman, we guarantee you a spot in Justice 200. And you move on from there. And so there are no blockage issues. Justice 200 is about a 30, 35 person class. Our upper level classes are at about 35 as well. We do not have any big classes. Research methods, senior seminar are down closer to 18 and 20. So we are there. Students who major in justice studies, a couple options that are out there that might be appealing to you to think about. One is the Washington semester, which is run by political science, but lots of justice studies majors do it. It's something that's very attractive to track A and C. You're going to go to DC. JMU's got housing in DC, and you will work there for a semester. One of the advantages of that, and this is true for those of you who live in DC, know that the DC area can just be flooded with interns in the summer, but it's a little bit different in the fall or spring, and you're also working for longer, so you get more deeply involved in the area and understand what's going on. Washington semester is kind of US government in the fall and global in the spring, so our global track B students will kind of be in the spring. Lots of our students are interested in, and many do take, study abroad programs. JMU runs a number of very good study abroad programs all across the world. You can also take them from other universities and transfer them back. So there's never a problem with that whatsoever. Many students are interested in internships. We don't require an internship, mostly because interns are unpaid for the large part. Most students will do internships over the summer, and some can't afford to do non-paying things over the summer, right? My son did an internship at his school. It was good. Leave it at that. Nothing bad happened, but not life-changing. My daughter at her school did volunteer work, and I think got just as much out of it. So there are lots of options out there for you to think about. JMU's got a very good kind of community engagement office that can help students do slightly less on terms of internships. Our internships basically require about 180 hours worth of work. So that's hard to do during an academic year, and community engagement can give you some other choices that make that work. We also have something called the Nelson Seminar. As an intern, you learn on the job and you kind of watch and then gradually build into some type of role. At the Nelson Institute, you come in as kind of a consultant. Local community organizations might need someone to devise a public opinion questionnaire. They might need some help on a topic in order to put a grant in. They just don't have the people to be able to do that. So we would go in and kind of work with organizations to do that. And that again can be a very, very rewarding experience. If I double back to internships just for a moment, internships should be looked at as something that will help you understand who you are and what you want to do. It's really great if you can get a job at a place you like, but you shouldn't do an internship because I want to work there. That's not, again, it's nice when it happens, but it ought to be, will this make sense to me in my life? When I was in political science, there was a student who did an internship at a Washington, DC law firm. She got paid, a beautiful office, well treated. And when we talked about her internship experience, her answer was, I never want to be a lawyer. That was a great internship because it helped clarify things for her. She could go back as a senior and look at other options. If it had worked, she could have gone out and strengthened her proposed preparation for law school. I had another student who did both a law internship and a police internship and really was law school oriented. And I was pushing the Nelson Institute and she wanted no part of it. And I said, this is going to look good on your law school application. So she did it. And when we had a conversation later, I asked her where she was going and I expected a law school answer. And the answer was, I'm getting a master's in social work. I bet you she's a lawyer now, but a different lawyer. And then the last example is there's something in Harrisonburg called the Blue Ridge Legal Services, which is a pro bono law operation. And we had a student there who was just dynamite and they were going to hire her right away. And her exit comment was, I'm ready for law school now. You know, it's me. So all three of those are very successful with very different experiences. So that's what you want a law experience or an internship experience to do. Why don't I stop there? Sarah, if you want to say something first about the major and then we can let them start asking questions, I think that would work.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to quickly introduce myself, hi there, thank you for coming. My name is Sarah. I am a senior. I actually graduate in less than 2 months, so I'm really excited, but also a little anxious. I am justice studies, obviously. I was track A for the first 3 years, and then this summer had a complete change of heart and transferred to track B. And I'm very happy with that decision. But I was in track A for the longest time. And of course, I've taken classes in all 3 tracks. So I can definitely try to answer your questions about any of them and just questions from the student's perspective. Absolutely.
Very good, thank you. Anybody have questions for us? Things that we can help you get a better handle on what JMU is about or what the major is about. The Justice Studies Department also administers a criminal justice minor. It administers a humanitarian affairs minor. It will administer next year a transforming juvenile justice minor that has just been created. And we are working on a social justice minor. You can major in anything you want and minor in those areas, right? So there's no reason not to do that. Probably the largest major we have in the criminal justice minor is psychology. I fear they're watching a little bit too much crime scene stuff on TV and think you can just walk in and understand the crime just by that, but they will learn that can't be done. But that's probably our largest student body in the criminal justice minor. Humanitarian affairs is kind of split over a number of different disciplines. Transforming juvenile justice is going to be a major that we, excuse me, a minor that we administer along with Department of the College of Health and Human Services. I see we have a, is there a question?
Mm-hmm.
How many students are in the major track A? We have about 300 students in, am I supposed to answer live here?
I think so.
About 300 students in the major. I would say a good 100 and maybe 25, 50, I bet about 50% at least are probably in track A. That's also where most of our courses are. So we're pretty much successful. We are successful making sure people get out in 4 years. That's where most of our faculty too. We've got about 12 plus people in the department. I would say 2 or 3 are straight social justice. Another good 3 plus are straight global, and then the others get into track A or some combination of that. That help? Other questions that we might be able to help you with? I got to get used to being hitting these over here. Very good. Do you want to talk about?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I definitely can talk about my internship experience. So I had one of the internships where you have it and then decide, wow, this is definitely not for me. Last summer, so summer 2019, I interned with the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department, and I spent time in the jail that is connected with the Sheriff's Department, in the courts, and then in like the actual Sheriff's Department. And that's kind of when I started thinking about maybe I should switch tracks, but I thought it was too late. So naturally, I waited another year and then finally made up my mind. But it was a great, like, exactly like Dr. Hestet said, it was a great internship experience, because if I would have actually graduated with a degree in justice studies specializing in crime and criminology, like, I wouldn't be specialized in an area where I want to get a job, and instead, like, global justice and policy will look much better on my resume, because that's what I'm trying to get a job in right now. So it was definitely a good internship experience. I have definitely done many more volunteer opportunities than I have internships. I was kind of waiting to do all my internships this past summer. I had 2 lined up, already had them, interviewed, applied, gotten them, and then you know the story. Anyway, that got canceled. But that's okay. I think everyone's going to have a slight gap in their resume for 2020, so I don't think it'll be held against anyone too much. But I definitely did more volunteer opportunities than internship opportunities, and there are a lot of nonprofits in Harrisonburg dealing with almost anything. Blue Ridge Legal Services actually does a lot of volunteer and internship opportunities. That was one of my internships planned for this summer. So that's a great one. There's a really, if you're thinking about track B with global justice and policy, Church World Service resettles a lot of refugees in this area, and they're a really, really great organization to get with, to volunteer or intern with. And that would look really good on a resume too. So it's definitely not hard for justice studies students in Harrisonburg to find relating opportunities. Yeah.
The question about job at the Bureau, would track A be the most helpful? My guess is that is the one that students would go into hoping to get an FBI type position. Now, having said that, right, a lot of crime and crime issues are global today. So that what would be very helpful would be someone who has a background in globalization, someone who has a background. We have a course on corruption. We have a course on organized crime, that they would be able to incorporate that. And those would be courses that could count for all 3 tracks. And you could get them and include them in track A. So yeah, I think track A would be the logical place to begin, but that doesn't mean that you should feel trapped into being track A. Again, a lot of our courses, such as corruption and organized crime, are going to be track A, B, and C, so that you can get that feel. And it might be one of the very helpful things at the end to be able to say, well, I also had a course on globalization, or something like that, that would work. We have slightly different approach, not approach, but slightly different from your question there. JMU has something called CISR, which is Center for International Stabilization Recovery. And what we were able to do is send recent graduates to the State Department on paid internships for a 2-year period. And that's a really good experience. And we've been successful for that. And they come from all the tracks. So there are broad opportunities. I think you would find that employers are more open than you might suspect to looking at something, a student's resume. They're looking for the ability to think, they're looking for the ability to communicate. I mean, someone like the FBI might be very interested in having a student who's had some courses in communications and could communicate and talk with other people. That's not done for lots of professionals. My son has a degree in economics, and he now works for the city of Charlotte, and I keep telling him the reason he got his job in the budget bureau in Charlotte was because he had a background in communication, and economists don't talk that nicely and well. So he was able to talk with people, and that was very helpful and set him apart from the normal, economist.
I think we had a question about student organizations.
Yes.
Which this is a perfect time to plug here. So there is a Justice Studies Society connected with the major. It is an absolutely great organization. I don't just say that because I was president last year and I'm on the board this year. But I really think like they do great work with connecting students to professionals, to try to bring in like guest speakers to talk to students so they can ask questions, to try to get a connection out in the professional world. We also try to do volunteer opportunities. I think one of the most rewarding parts of the organization though is we do have a GroupMe that over, I think we're at 120 people that are in the major or in the GroupMe, technically in the Justice Studies Society. And whenever anyone wants to connect with someone, like people will just ask in there who's in, let's see, like Dr. Hadstedt's Justice 235 class. And so you can connect with other students that way, which sometimes it's hard to do in class, but it's easier to do that way. So that's a really great, I think that's a really great way that students can connect with other people, like their peers, and then with professionals. There is also, if you want to do the criminal justice minor, there's a criminal justice organization. I don't know. They just started last year, so I'm not sure the exact name of it. I think it's just
criminal justice. Peggy Plass is the one.
Yes.
Does that.
Yes. So so there's that opportunities. And then there is the Humanitarian Student Association, HSA. So if you are interested in being a humanitarian affairs minor, there's also that student organization. And JMU does a really great job at like trying to get students to connect with each other through organizations. They host a student organization night at the beginning of each semester, but definitely the one at the beginning of the fall semester is much bigger, and all organizations, well, this year it was virtual, but we'll see how it goes next year. Hopefully in person. And so every student organization kind of sets up a table, they get their trifold out and you can enter your email address 100 times going through and stop at different organizations that you might be interested in to connect and like sign up for like meeting reminders or a newsletter or whatever it is. So it's very easy to join student organizations, and there definitely are student organizations connected with the major and relating minors.
Devon, do you want to jump in on this?
Uh-oh.
Devon, you need.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think she's just sent a chat.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. Another thing I think that relates to kind of what Sarah was talking about with the Justice Studies group being able to interact. We have an alumni day every spring. Last spring, we couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
But alums come back and they really want to talk with students about what they're doing. And we have alums who come back as criminal investigators. We have alums for police that come back. We have alums that are academics, I think at ODU, that come back. So we have a wide variety of alums that come back to work with and talk with students about careers and how you get places and how you ought to think about preparing for that. So I think that's another very valuable aspect of what we've got. Our alums, well, I'll put this as, given my age here, our alums are young. So that it's not like we've got someone who's been out 30, 40 years coming back. We have them who've been out 10 years or plus and really relayed very well and very nicely to our students. So that really, I think, is a very positive feature.
Yes, definitely. I would definitely agree. Alumni Day is, honestly, I was so bummed to be missing it this year right before graduation, but it was definitely like the past 2 years have been amazing places to gain connections. And it's really nice to connect with someone who has graduated with the degree, very specific degree that you're going to graduate with. So they've already marketed themselves in a very certain way. So you can ask them like, you know, like how did you market yourself when you went out there, and what skills did you emphasize? What kind of feedback did you get from applications or interviews? So yeah, I definitely think it's very helpful.
Other concerns, questions, uncertainties that we might be able to provide some answers to? You know, one thing that I do kind of always stress when we have these type of sessions is that I think there are two things excuse me, two things you really want to focus on in your mind when you're thinking about picking out a school and a major, right? One, you want to find someplace that you're comfortable, because you've got to comfortable to learn. That's both the institution and the major. You like the teachers, like your fellow students, that. The second is you want to be challenged, right? It does no good to breeze your way through and not have to work. It does no good to be overwhelmed, but you've got to be challenged to develop your skills. So you want to find some place where you're comfortable and when you can be challenged. And hopefully JMU and Justice Studies fits that. We'd like to think it does. So, but I would recommend kind of keeping those not in the back of your mind, really the forefront, as you kind of think about what you want, what you need. I would say now that if there are no other real questions out there, we probably can wrap this up. Feel free to send an email to the Justice Studies Department at JMU with any questions that might come up in your mind, you know, tonight, tomorrow, next week, next month. Feel free to send them to me. You know, my email as department head is right there on the webpage, so that's not a problem. It'll get to me. But we would respond to you very, very quickly and honestly. So, you know, we can help with that.
Yeah. I'll put my student email in the chat just in case anyone wants to like ever ask any questions about student life or anything else comes up after we get off here. Let me just type it in there. Because I know we all ask we remember the questions we want to ask as soon as we can't ask them anymore.
Yes, isn't that the truth? Thank you all for spending the time with us. And again, feel free to contact us again with any questions you might have. If we can't answer them, we will put you in touch with someone who can. So even if it's not a Justice Studies question, we'll find an answer for you. Okay. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.